The .NET Core podcast is supported by our listeners who have become patrons. To see a full list of the patrons, or to join them, head over to .NETCore.show/patrons. Hello everyone and welcome to the .NET Core podcast, the only podcast which is devoted to .NET Core, ASP.NET Core, EF Core, SignalR, and not forgetting the .NET Core community itself. I am your host, Jamie Caprogman-Taylor, and this is a quick update. This episode is more of a quick update on some things relating to the show itself, rather than a full-blown episode, interview, or monologue. So let's sit back, open up a terminal, type in .NET New Podcast, and let the show begin. You might be wondering why there is a new episode appearing in your feeds so soon. No, we're not going back to weekly episodes just yet. Essentially, I wanted to release a quick update on some things relating to the podcast. Firstly, the show isn't going away. Far from it, in fact. We've actually blown through the point where most podcasts do a thing called pod fading, which is what happens when a podcast fades into obscurity. Most shows that don't make it to 20 episodes eventually fade into the background. But that's not happening here because we just launched episode 23 last week, as of recording this episode. Although the podcast isn't going away, I will point out that there will be no new episodes this month. For those who haven't been keeping up with me on Twitter, I'm about to leave for a vacation in Japan. As such, I'll be away from my computer for the entire time that I'm there, and that's just over 2 weeks, door to door. Because of that, I won't have the time or ability to record any new episodes. Pro tip, folks who subscribe to the newsletter learned about this last night as of recording, so it might be worth signing up for that, and there's a link in the show notes. I will say this though, I have the next 6 or 7 episodes recorded and ready for editing, so it's not like I'm lost for content at all. I can let you all know that there are some pretty cool topics coming up too, such as migrating from ASP.NET to ASP.NET Core with Iris Klassen, another episode that I'm doing on Blazor, Memstate with Robert Freeberg, and Education with Jasmine Greenway and Cecil Phillip, to name just a few. On the subject of the mailing list, Manning Publishing have given me a whole stack of free book codes to give away, which I'll be raffling off via the mailing list. So do join it if you're at all interested in, Xamarin, .NET Core, and microservices. I have codes for books in ebook format on all of those topics to give away, and will be doing so when I get back from my vacation. On the subject of stats and growth, I just wanted to point out a tweet that I'd sent out at the beginning of this month. It's a little braggy, but I'm super proud of it. Quote, March 2019 was the best month for the podcast yet. I interviewed so many wonderful people, the episodes have yet to be edited, and learned lots about a number of amazing OSS projects. But the show also has around 8,200 unique listeners per month, at least according to my stats. End quote. All of that is down to all of you wonderful listeners. Seriously, the show would be nothing without the advice and input that you all give. And there are plenty of listeners who don't give any feedback, and that's fine too. On the subject of that, and the only time I'll bring up the Patreon in this episode, other than to say a massive thank you to the folks who already support the show via that, I recently went through and changed the tiers on the Patreon page. Click through to the Patreon page from the show notes to see the details, but at the time of recording at least, certain tiers of patrons can now submit AMA-style questions, and I'll make them into podcast episodes that only they will hear. If you're listening to this episode within a few weeks of it going out, and are in the UK, then you'll likely be interested to know that I'll be speaking at some events soon. On Thursday, April 25th, I'll be at Moving North, Tech Innovation's .NET Core event in Leeds, and I'll be speaking on the history of .NET and how, and some of the why, we went from .NET to .NET Core. It's a brand new meetup for the Leeds area specifically about .NET Core, and the organisers describe it as, quote, "This is a free event created for .NET developers, architects, leaders, and those who are interested in modern development with .NET Core. We also love modern software architecture and design with DDD, CQRS, event sourcing, functional programming, microservices, Docker, K8s, and much more. The aim of this event is to have an open discussion, enabling us to share knowledge and have healthy technical debates in the hope that everybody comes away from this event having learned something. There'll be 3 key speakers, a senior developer/DevOps manager, development manager / architect, and a CTO. So there is something for everybody who wants to understand .NET Core better, end quote. And just a few short weeks after that, on Tuesday, May 7th, I'll be giving a talk at .NET Chef in Sheffield. The talk I'll be giving will be called Blazor You Want to Run .NET Where? And is very similar to one that I gave at Umbraco Festival UK last year, and one which will be appearing in your podcatchers very soon. Wrapping up, this was my first quick update on the podcast. Please remember that there won't be any new episodes this month, but that the podcast isn't going away. We all have to have a little vacation time every now and then, right? Reach out to me over on Twitter, my DMs are always open, and let me know what you think of the podcast, and episodes like this one. If you're not interested in meta-style episodes where I talk about the podcast, then I won't do any more. And don't forget to spread the word. Leave me a rating or review on your podcatcher of choice, and to come back next time for more .NET Core goodness. I'll see you again real soon. See you later, folks.